All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Change Your Mind podcast, where we explore personal development, spirituality, and science. I'm your host, Chris Ashley, and I am really excited for today's conversation. We're going to talk about mindset around money and wealth prejudice and shame that comes with money. And you've heard me talk about these topics before. My guest is actually coming from a different angle, so I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. First, couple quick announcements. As always, head over to the links in the show notes. You are going to find a lot there. You'll find ways to connect with my amazing guest. You'll find ways to connect with me on social media, freebies, downloads, courses, coaching, all the things are on there. Ways to sponsor the podcast. Links to my book, Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality. It was endorsed by 3 experts who were in the film The Secret: Michael Beckwith, Bob Doyle, Marcy Shimoff. It was endorsed by John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, a whole lot more. And let's see what else. Oh, yeah. This podcast is part of the Los Angeles Tribune Podcast Network. We are doing incredible things in the personal development realm. We have events pretty much every month at this point, both virtual and in person. Amazing podcasts in the network. So come be a part of what we're doing. There's a lot of exciting things happening. What if the one thing keeping you stuck is the way you think? Welcome to Change Your Mind with Chris Ashley, the podcast where science meets spirituality and mindset becomes your most powerful tool for transformation. I'm Chris Ashley, author of Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality, trainer, speaker, and lifelong seeker. For years, I battled trauma, depression, anger, chronic illness, low self-worth, and the weight of old stories. Until I discovered how to rewire my mind, reconnect with my divine nature, and consciously create a new reality from the inside out. This show is here to help you do the same. Each week, we explore the intersection of personal development, spirituality, and science, diving into topics like healing, emotional mastery, entrepreneurship, resilience, and the quantum nature of reality. You'll hear powerful stories, gain practical tools, and real conversations that will help you change your perspective, get unshakable confidence, and live the vision your soul has always known is possible. Whether you're navigating a major life shift, building your dream business, or seeking deep healing and alignment, you're in the right place. So if you're ready to break through, take back your power, and create a life on your terms, this is your moment. Let's break free from the patterns that hold us back, awaken to who we truly are, and rise. Your transformation starts now. All right, my guest today is Myra Salzer. So Myra is the founder of the Wealth Conservancy, a TEDx speaker, and an advocate for inheritors navigating the complexities of wealth. Through her firm, she offers life and financial coaching to help clients harness their inherited assets and pursue meaningful goals. Myra is the author of 4 books, including Living Richly, Seizing the Potential of Inherited Wealth, and regularly speaks on wealth prejudice and financial empowerment. When she's not advising clients, Myra enjoys the quiet life in the Colorado foothills, sharing her home with her husband and dog. Welcome, Myra. Where in the Colorado foothills?
Oh, just outside of Boulder.
Very
Yeah.
cool. I spent my summers growing up in Estes Park because I have
Nice.
very dear friends who live up there.
Nice. Yes. Good
Yeah.
place to be in summer.
Yeah, exactly. They had a ranch up there, and we would just, yeah, spend our summer. I'm actually taking my son for the first time. He's 14 months up there, so I love Colorado.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. So I'm so happy you're here. The only question that I plan before these conversations is the first one, and it's the same for every single guest. And that is, what is your origin story? So what is it that made you want to, um, coach people on financial mindset and overcoming money shame and how to handle inherited wealth?
I grew up in a pretty wealthy neighborhood. Went to school with a lot of extremely wealthy people in Holmby Hills, Malibu, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills. And personally had an upbringing where there was a lot and then there was nothing, depending on if it was a good year or not a good year. And I remember very clearly liking the a lot years more than the, "Oh, no, we don't have a maid anymore," or "No," and, so I was at during those dearth years, I was really envious of my friends who had more money, and I altered who I was to be friends with them and realized that that's that's not fair to them. I had an opinion about them based on their family circumstances rather than on who they were.
Yeah.
And I'm not proud of that, but that's the origin story.
It's interesting. My husband, before he was with me, was with someone for 4 years from Malibu, and she had grown up not having any like, a lot of money around all of those people, so there was this, like, very superficialness to it and, like, also this, like, drive for money,
Mhm.
and it's a very interesting, like, psychologically place to be for someone growing up in years where you're so impressionable, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I read a book, oh, many years ago now. It was written by someone who went to Beverly Hills High, and he was in the neighborhood because his mother was a live-in maid at a residence there. And so similar circumstances like not being in and being out, and what are those prejudices that you alluded to at the very beginning?
Yeah. We were talking in the green room, and this is a share story. Like this is an example that I've shared on the podcast before, but and I'm gonna keep using it until like this people don't remember it anymore. But when that submersible was going to look at the Titanic wreckage, and there were some very wealthy people on it and a kid, and they plummeted to their death and died in this horrific way, and they knew it was happening, and they heard the creaking. They dropped like 40 feet to the ground, and all these news outlets were covering it on social media, and the comments on it were just like repulsive. It was like, well, good, less rich people in the world, and like, screw the rich. Like, why is it like there were people who were like celebrating these horrific deaths? So, why do you think there is this attitude towards people with a lot of money like this? Because, as you just alluded to, they're just people, right?
Yeah. And especially if they're the children of people who've created a lot of wealth. And actually, I'm going to step back a second, Chris, and define wealth, because the origin of the word wealth comes from the Middle Ages, and it's a combination of well and health.
That's cool. I've
And
never heard that.
and so there are many different kinds of wealth. There's, of course, financial wealth, but there's health wealth, spiritual wealth, community wealth, intellectual wealth. And so when we hone in and assume that when someone says wealth, they're talking about financial wealth, that's a prejudice right in and of itself. And I don't remember what the question was now.
Well, we were talking about financial wealth specifically, and I said, why is it that people have this prejudice towards people who have money?
Mhm. And I think it's their own relationship with themselves that, for someone who's very comfortable with themselves, they don't have that prejudice. They don't have an attitude. They're accepting of other people, regardless of their financial circumstances, for who they are rather than what they have.
So do you think it's their own self-judgment or shame or guilt or fear or jealousy that, they haven't been able to accumulate financial wealth?
Well, in the case of me as growing up as a child, I wouldn't have been in a position to when I already had those attitudes. So, but certainly I would guess as someone ages and they don't accomplish financially what they had set out to do, and they're living a life where they feel like they have to sacrifice rather than having a life of abundance. Um, I I think it is perhaps a reminder of their own failures. I can only guess, though.
I mean, we talk about that a lot in the personal development world that, like, as you get more successful, and it doesn't have to be even financially successful, it could just be, um, more in the public eye, or you're doing well, you're getting social media followers, you're getting speaking gigs, whatever it is. The more, the more success you get, the more rejection you risk because as you get more successful, it reminds people in your life that they're not as successful. So they will try and tear you down. They will make up reasons why you're successful and they're not. But it all comes from their own pain and their own fear. Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, you said it right there. It comes from them, and it's their interpretation of the successful person's circumstances.
So how do we change that as a society? How do we how do we make people see people who have money as just people?
If I knew that, um, that would make it a lot easier for our clients. I don't know if you can. I don't think you can control other people. You can't control other attitudes and values. But as a wealthy individual, a financially wealthy individual, you can honor your own values and be consistent and allow that to be the person who meets the rest of the world. And hopefully there will be some people who are listening. Does that make any sense?
I mean, I'd love for you to elaborate a little more.
Yeah. Um, I think that wealth prejudice is made in someone's head as a result of the stories they've heard or the experiences they've had. And that if they had experiences with people who were just genuine connection, that they may never have known, oh, this is a very wealthy person financially. Then if they can have those experiences where there's a connection and a love between them that is outside of the realm of finances, then their attitude towards those who have different amounts of financial means will diminish in terms of their prejudice against them.
Yeah, totally. I think some people have so much prejudice that they go in with these preconceived notions, right? They have this filter on, they have this idea, and they have this story. And like you said, the best case scenario is they meet someone, connect with them, they don't even know what their financial status is, right?
Right, 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 right. Which, a lot of our clients who have inherited wealth go to extremes to hide the fact that they're in those circumstances. They themselves have, I mean, they didn't do anything to be put in that position except being born into a family that has that kind of structure. And oftentimes their net worth and self-worth are misaligned. And what we do is try and get them aligned. And until they get that confidence that this is who they are, then they might not be so isolating. It's an isolating thing when you have more than others. And so being able to have the confidence to reach out, to be in relationship with others in spite of the fact that one has more than the other is what's going to help tear down those prejudices.
It's interesting that people's self-worth is misaligned. Talk to me more about that.
Ah, um, when you earn money through your own effort, there's a cause and effect result. You do something, you get something. And you grow into it as that is happening. You're it's a process. Whereas if you've inherited a lot of money, it's like a meteor coming down or a tsunami. It just hits you and there was not you didn't do anything as a result. You didn't do anything to achieve that or get that. And so here's this huge meteor that you're responsible for, that you're expected to manage, that you're expected to integrate with and have it be part of who you are in relationships and everything. But you've lived your life here and you're not ready for it. And so there's this misalignment until you can accept it, go through the stages of inherited wealth until you're an integrated authority with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's making me think about how a lot of these judgments about wealthy people are, oh, they didn't earn it, right? Because a lot of the argument against that is like, well, they worked hard. You didn't see what happened behind the scenes, but these people didn't work hard that your clients that are your clients. So I can see how there would be some shame along with that.
And embarrassment.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Not feeling worthy, feeling judged, feeling a duty, like not yet knowing what this inheritance means in term for them personally. Does it and yet immediately getting hit with philanthropic requests and proposals of marriage and is this person a friend because they're a friend or because they want to be associated with the kind of attitude or question of themselves.
It's funny, my husband's one of my husband's good friends, also has a friend who's like a pretty, he's in a pretty famous, like, rock band, and he's, like, the bass player, so he's not, like, the front man, but they've had a lot of success, and this is, like, the only job this guy's ever had, and my husband has, like, become really good friends with this guy over the last year and a half, 2 years, like, they golf together all the time, they're buddies, they've gone on, like, a road trip together, they've become really good friends, and the first time I met him, he was so standoffish. I was like, "Fuck this guy." Like, why what do you see in him? There's, like, so many walls up, like, he wouldn't look me in the eye, he wouldn't engage, he was so weird, and I was just kinda, like, put off by it, and then the next time I met him, I had my baby with me, and he was just like a puddle with this baby. He was, like,
Aw.
loving on him and just, like, so sweet, and he, like, totally was a different person, and he was, like, awesome to me then, and I realized, like, he probably has so many people trying to be his friend or and he doesn't know, like, are they genuinely trying to, like, be my friend? Is it just because 'cause I'm famous? Do they want something? Are they trying to pitch something? Are they gonna give me their CD at the end of this? So I can see how that would be, like, you would have to be really guarded, going through life like that.
Yes. Yeah, you never know people's intentions. And it doesn't take many, many times of being burned that you just kind of go into a cocoon and want to be isolated and not put yourself at risk of being hurt or abused or used.
So most of your clients, do they get like, how do they accumulate their wealth?
How do they
Accumulate their wealth, like, where does it come from?
um, we have clients anywhere between second generation and sixth generation. We work with a client whose family office was created in 1917. And so it varies a lot, and location varies a lot. and circumstances, whether they inherited through trusts or a family operating business or a family office. And it just depends.
I was just asking because another thing I was thinking about are, people who win the lottery or come into like large inheritance often end up going bankrupt pretty quickly. And I was curious to hear your thoughts about that.
No, it's an interesting phenomenon, and I've read a lot about that. That that is the opposite of bringing your self-worth up to your net worth. It's bringing your net worth down to your self-worth. And, it's a little different for lottery winners in as much as they're so alone. They don't have a sibling who got the same thing or a uh, and they're public. Their names are plastered all over, and so they can't be anonymous. And they're not nearly as wealthy financially as they're reported to be, because the numbers that are reported are with
Pre-tax.
before tax dollars,
Yeah.
and there's an annuity stream and everything. So, um, yes, they will revert back to where they're comfortable and what they know, and that's what we all do. Change is hard, and that's why you have a podcast. And, to change people's minds, you have to change their mindsets.
It's interesting that you called it reverting back to what's comfortable. Um, I've never thought of it that way because the way that I've thought about it is like a lot of the people who end up winning the lottery just aren't financially literate. So they don't know how much to put aside for taxes. They don't maybe they haven't been taught how to invest, and there's this idea of like just kind of wanting to buy big flashy things and not like understanding that money is just a tool, right? That you can use to make more money, rather than just, buying assets or buying like
Toys.
yeah, toys is a great way to put it. But it's interesting that you framed it as reverting back to what's comfortable. So it's almost like there's this underlying mechanism, like unconsciously, that's trying to get back to a place where they're comfortable.
I think that's right. For lottery winners, I think that's right. For young professional athletes who might be making a great deal of money and only for a short period of time,
Hmm.
um, it can be similar.
Yeah.
Um, and it's the rare athlete who is entrepreneurial, who can, grow what their income had been when they were professional into a business and expand on that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And like you said, it's like a very small window where these people are rock stars, right? And they're getting the fame and they're getting the money, and then you have to figure out what to do after that. And there's a lot of athletes that go bankrupt too. So, like how does someone overcome this kind of shame, this kind of prejudice, this kind of self-worth? Like how do they bring their self-worth back up?
I think identifying what they're passionate about, and I know that's so cliche, but on staff here, we have a life coach that helps them to to integrate with themselves, and we have then the financial planners and investment managers so that we can be a package deal, that the whole process is integrated so that everybody can rise together and grow together. And the question was that how re repeat the question for me, if you don't
Just
mind,
how
please.
does someone overcome that shame? Not necessarily
Mm.
like through your office, because maybe people
Right, right.
listening aren't going to go to your office, right?
Absolutely.
Let's put away that.
Yeah.
But just something to like help listeners out because And I want to like make sure that we're talking to the people that are listening to this podcast too, who might not be people who have this abundance of wealth, but there's we can make this a universal relatable thing, right? Of because at some point in life you're going to have more of something than someone else does. Maybe like you have a great relationship and your friends are jealous, or you know, I don't know, maybe
I
you
love
have a
that.
great career that you feel fulfilled in and you're happy. There's different ways to be bankrupt, like you mentioned earlier. There's different ways to be wealthy. So let's bring it down to that.
I like that.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, like, how does someone overcome the shame of having more and the prejudice and the judgment that goes with it? Because it is trendy to be a victim right now, especially. The pendulum's swinging the other way, but especially like the last 4 years, like there has been a status that comes with being a victim. And having less than is another way to be a victim, and to put your own stuff like we were talking about onto someone else or an external source. So if you are that person that's having it put on you, like how you overcome that.
Yeah. We talked about community wealth, and I think that is so important and so indicative. And when somebody achieves something that they've wanted, that they feel really good about themselves, whether it might be being sober for a year, if they revert back to their drinking friends, they're probably not going to stay sober because there's this like sense that they're now different. They're not part of the group anymore.
Yeah.
And to be part of the group, and by them being sober, it reminds their old friends what they're not, that they are, still drinking or whatever. And and the same goes for success in business. It you almost have to get into a new community that is supportive of who you are. If someone loses a lot of weight and now they're really happy with their body, to they can't they can't go out drinking or eating with their friends who are obese. It just it reminds their old friends or their own old community that of what they're not, and it I think it's just okay to accept that they can't be part of that group anymore, and that it's not if they're happy with themselves and what they're doing and how they're doing it, to find that community of people who support that. If someone wants to get fit, they might join a running club or a bike club. If someone wants to expand intellectually, a book club or taking classes. And so you want to surround yourself with the people with whom you want to associate and be like.
That's phenomenal advice. I love that so much. And we've all heard like you are the sum of the people, the five people you surround yourself with. And it's so true. And I like that you said like if you want to get fit, surround yourself with people in like a biking club, because there's also this sense that like it's not just like after you lose the weight that you want to surround yourself. It's like surround yourself with people who have what you want. Like the conversation is different in those circles. And that's such great advice for business
Yeah.
too, and just for anything in life. So yeah, no, I really like that. It really makes a difference. So is there anything we haven't covered today that you really want to get out there to people in terms of money mindset or wealth prejudice or overcoming the shame?
I think as one grows in a position, whether that's growing with any of the kinds of wealth, to give themselves, an understanding that, yes, this is where they want to be, this is where they are, and they can work towards it. But there are going to be dips, and there are going to be, and you're never going to arrive. You're never going to get there. That's like the horizon. You're never going to get there. There's and that's the good news because that means there's always something to strive for. There's always a next step. If you ever arrived, that would be the end.
Or you'd get there and you'd be like, okay, now what?
Exactly. Exactly. So
Eckhart Tolle talks about that sense of like arriving. He's like, okay, maybe your goal is to like go live on this beautiful island and live in this tropical thing, and it's like, all right, you're on your island, you're on your beach, you're under a palm tree, you're drinking a pina colada. Like, now what? You're not gonna stay there forever. Like, there's got to be,
yes.
there's always
Yeah.
growth. Like you said, if we were done growing, we wouldn't be here anymore.
And I think that goes back to your lottery winner question. Okay, you get a lot of money and you're buy an airplane and you travel the world and have a great time. And that's the first 5 minutes. Now, what are you going to do with the rest of your life?
I just saw this awesome clip on social media this morning that you just made me think of. It was Will Smith, and he was talking about, and I'm probably not going to paraphrase it perfectly, but he was talking about how, like, people talk about like hitting rock bottom, but he also talks about this like precipice of standing on the top of a cliff where you've gained all those things that you want, like money and fame and wealth and notoriety and success and all these things. And you realize that like none of that is like making you feel fulfilled, and then like falling off that cliff and hitting that same kind of rock bottom that people hit without rising to that cliff. I was like, yeah, that's such a great way of saying it, that um there's this other extreme to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what if you were born on the top of that cliff?
Mm,
How do you go from there? Your goal in life becomes not to screw up.
mm.
It's a whole different way of looking at life.
Especially if you're a child of someone who's in the public eye,
Exactly.
like a
Yeah.
politician or someone. Um, that's a lot of
Actress
pressure on
or
a like an adolescent or a teenager or a young person.
yes, totally.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a lot of sympathy in the world for that.
Exactly. That's where prejudice comes in, is people have these ideas, "Oh, it's so easy for you," and, you know, why didn't that happen to me? Victimhood mentality surfacing, and, um, it's not fair.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of problems that money could solve for a lot of people, but on the other hand, money isn't gonna make you feel fulfilled, right? What's his name? Jim Carrey says something really cool about that too. He's like, I wish everyone had the chance to get everything they ever wanted, so they can find out that it's not gonna make them truly happy.
Yep.
They're still gonna have those human problems. Yeah.
A coach of mine, Dan Sullivan, has this great line that if you have enough money to solve a problem, you don't have a problem. And that's true, but you do get other problems.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's the same like human problems that everyone gets, right? Like emotional, mental, psychological, you're still having a human experience. You're still on 3D Earth here, trying to navigate life and relationships and purpose and all of those things.
Yeah. And we didn't even touch on health. Everybody needs that health to get good health to be able to navigate the other wealths.
Right.
And if you don't have that, that's your goal, is to get healthy.
Yeah, no, they say like people with poor health have one problem where other people have, maybe
Many,
many.
or one goal, and yeah.
That's what it is, one goal, one dream. I was just gonna say something that you made me think of, and I totally just lost it. What did you say right before this? Maybe it'll trigger it.
that people
Oh,
who
I know. I know what I was gonna say. Um, so many people, that's another thing that people use money for, to be the victim. They're like, "Oh, well, if I had money, I could hire a personal trainer or I could buy nice organic food." And actually, I had a family member say that about my husband's family. It was so shocking. And they're doing good, but they're not, they're not crazy wealthy. But my in-laws are in really good shape. They just turned 70. They're like in phenomenal shape. They travel all the time. They work out all the time. They eat well. They take care of themselves. And one of my family members was like, "Yeah, it must be nice to have all that money and then you can be in shape." It's like, going for a run is free, yoga is free, fresh air and sunshine is free, eating healthy, like, you can do on a budget, mindset is free, meditation is free, which they do every day. It's just another way of becoming a victim and having all of these excuses, and again, placing your dissatisfaction or your own fear or pain or suffering on other people and outside events.
yeah, totally.
Awesome. So
And
anything
it's not
else?
your
Yeah.
in-laws to they can't sacrifice enough to make a victim unvictimed. There's they can't be sick enough or poor enough to make those people who are making comments about it feel better. It's not your in-laws' problem.
Right. And if even if they wanted to, it's like you literally can't please everyone. Like anyone who's run a company before or like managed people knows like you can't please everyone. You
Right,
can't. So you shouldn't even try.
right. Agreed.
Yeah. Um and the cool thing is like when people take accountability for their own actions and their own health and their own life and their own emotions and everything else, it's empowering. They get to step into their own power and change their life for the better.
Yes. And that's where their self-worth rises.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, this was a lovely conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I think it's important. It's really interesting what you do. Because again, like so many people might be like, wait, you're like people who need have a lot of money need support, and I think just like your job title, it says a lot, right? The company you started says a lot because yeah, like everyone is a human, right? And we are
Everybody
all here.
deserves an advocate.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sure people want to know where they can connect with you. If you have more to share online, you said you have a couple books. If you want to just share.
Yeah, my name's Myra Salzer, and the website is thewealthconservancy.com. And we also have a program, an 8-session program that's one-on-one with a life coach on getting understanding of your relationship with money. And that's wayintowealth.com.
Awesome. And those links will be in the show notes as well. Thank you so much. If you're listening, send this to someone you think could use it. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all the things. Let's help make this world a better place. Get rid of some of those snap judgments we tend to have. All right. Take care, everyone.
Touche.